her all the way through, and I just grow attached to all of you. I'm sure most of you know that, and I pray for you, and I love all of you. And this girl has an even deeper seed because she's also my niece, and so obviously I have prayed for her whole life, even before, because her mama was pregnant, and I'm like, yes, that baby coming to the Green family. And so she has a story to tell. I'm not sure what else she's going to talk about, but holy smokes, God is so huge, and He answers prayer, and He is definitely up for hitting up some miracles for some of us. I have worked 20 years delivering babies, labor and delivering babies. So when she tells you this story, just realize when I started delivering babies, when babies were about 30 weeks in their mama's belly, they have about 10 weeks left. Back then, they usually, if they were born, it wasn't good news. And then as time went on, scientists and God has given men so many amazing inventions that we figured out ways to help babies live when they were born earlier and earlier. And so it is really remarkable that a little tiny baby can be born so teeny tiny and actually survive. When I started delivering babies and they said, we're not even, you're not going to try to help this baby if it's born early because there's just nothing that can be done. And so I went to a lot of baby funerals, and it was horrible. And so Brittany, my sweet niece, will share her story, but man, some huge prayers went up a year ago this time, from Summit. I just feel like this is holy ground. There were a lot of us praying on our knees. I was on my knees, and that's a dirty floor down there, guys, in the nurses' station. And I was on my knees praying for a miracle. And so Brittany, formerly Green, now Childress, it is my honor to have you come up and speak with all of these new summiters. You were a previous summiter, and you've come back to help, but we would love to hear from you this evening. Let's give her a round of applause. Would you like a short microphone like I have?
Not a very tall one.
Do you need assistance?
No, I got it. This kind of story needs props, so can I steal this? Whoever this belongs to?
Yes!
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess the easiest way to tell you a story is to tell you from the beginning. I told you, Mom, I told you this was going to happen.
Just see yourself sitting out there 15 years ago.
So, I think like a lot of women and a lot of people who are married, you get really excited when you find out you're going to have a baby. I found out at 5 weeks, and at 8 weeks we had our first complication. I had to go in for a lot of tests and a lot of different types of things, and they found out that my numbers were low, a lot lower than they should have been for where they were at 8 weeks. So they put me on a medication, and I was on this medication for a while, and finally somewhere in the teens they let me off of it. And then at 20 weeks, we were so excited because we were finally going to find out the gender of the baby. We didn't do it before then, we decided to do it then. And in the process of doing that, they told us we were going to have a baby girl, and the technician told us, you could see it all over her face, it was plain as day. We knew something was wrong, and it found out that there was a part of a woman's body that is too short to hold the baby in place, and it scared the crap out of me. They put me on a stronger medication at that point for it. They told me to come back in a week. I came back in a week, and I took another test, an ultrasound, and a few other things, and they told me it was even shorter. So I had to go for more tests. I had to go back in to actually a different doctor. And the reasoning for this test was in hopes that they wanted to see if I could qualify for surgery or not. In most cases, you can't qualify for that particular surgery unless you're 12 to 14 weeks. At that point, I was 23. So there's no way that after they did all the other tests I had to go through, they just put me on another medication that was stronger, and they basically told me that it could go either way. I could make it off somewhere between 37 and 40 weeks, which is the typical range, or I would go early. So we hit a week later, which is 24 weeks, and it's a Sunday night. I'm hanging out with my best friend and her husband and my husband, and we're just having a good time. And I felt this, it's like a pulse-like pain, and I find out later that it's contractions. But it was very pulse-like, and I just knew that something was wrong, and I told my husband, Aaron, that we needed to go to the hospital. So we did, and I got so lucky that my doctor was a doctor on call. That was one of the biggest blessings I had. And she came in, she examined me, and she told me the scariest news of the night, that at 24 weeks, my daughter was going to be born. She said, we're either going to have you transferred to the Toledo NICU to deliver, or they're coming to us. And I found out later that they had no intention of taking me to the NICU. They were going to deliver me there and then have her transferred. They basically said, both your child's feet are coming out, your water's about to break, there's nothing we can do except for do it now. So in the process of all that, I am being poked and prodded, full of medications to do whatever we possibly could to whatever we possibly could do to make sure she survived. So at 1:21 on June 14th, at Monday morning, my daughter was born. Typical babies between 37 and 40 weeks. They're usually somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds. That's an average. This American Girl doll is 17 inches long. My daughter came out at 1 pound, 4 ounces, and was about this big. So I did get to meet her before they transferred her to NICU. They did let me touch her shoulder. I don't really remember a whole lot from that night. I was drugged up. I can tell you that my body was struggling a lot because at that early, at 24 weeks, your body thinks that you're having a miscarriage, which is a fancy way of saying that you lost the baby. So I was not in a good place, and I was in a hospital room by myself. At the end of it. Before that, my husband called reinforcements. My parents came, his mom came, my best friends came, and when they all left, I was really struggling. I couldn't sleep that night. And I remember needing help. And that's when I did my first initial, somebody please just pray for her. So I sent out that message on Facebook and so many messages to people. And you guys, I cannot tell you how much of a cool community that we have. I have no words. I didn't just get prayers, I got supplies, I got laughs, I had people literally come and check up on us. People were sending us cards, like, I was overwhelmed with love. And that was the coolest feeling ever in the midst of all of the crazy. And a lot of you are in this room, and I will never be able to thank you enough. So they transferred her to the Toledo Hospital NICU. NICU is a fancy word for neonatal intensive care unit. And we knew we were going to be there for a long haul. So we just planned our life to live at the Ronald McDonald House in Toledo, which is this charity that's there for people where you can stay there for free and you can hang out with, I shouldn't say hang out, you can be with your family member that's in the hospital. We lived there. We had friends who took care of our house for us, who took care of our cats. My mom even took my cat in. All of that help we were getting in the meantime, we were just trying to pray that we weren't going to get a phone call at 2 a.m. saying something was wrong, because that's what they kept telling us the first week, was she had to get through the first week. If she could get through the first week, we could get through pretty much anything. So that's what we prayed and hoped for, is that we would get through that first week, and that we weren't allowed to hold her at all during that time. We didn't get to hold her until she made it through the first week. And when we did, it requires 2 people to hold her. So she's covered in cords. Like, there's cords out. There's so many cords measuring so many different medical things. You have to learn so much medical information. I never thought I would have to know. No offense, Aunt Nikki, wherever you're at. But during all of that, I mean, we just went with the flow. We did whatever we could to be with her. There were some good days. There were a lot of good days where she rocked out to a lot of different things. And then the hardest day was definitely July 4th. So that was the day where they were going to allow us to hold her. And again, that's a 2-person process. So it can take a nurse and a respiratory therapist. And they both have to get all of these cords and get the baby on top of you. And like I said, it's a baby like this big, so she can fit like right on your chest. And so in the process of doing that, her oxygen levels should be around 90 to 100. You and me would be 98 to 100. And it went down from 90 to 15 in a matter of seconds. We almost lost her. And I just remember holding on to a handrail, like my life depended on it, just praying that God would let her survive this. And he did, and he so did. So at one point in the middle of July, I was just struggling, and there was a song called Cornerstone by Hillsong that came on, and this song has 9 words in it that were literally there for me for the remainder of the time I was in the hospital, and these 9 words got me through everything. And it came to me at the perfect time, because it was when I was starting to just really struggle with my emotions. Because when you're in the NICU, you don't realize how numb you are, but you're numb almost the whole time you're there. So for the next several months, I was hanging on to these 9 words, kept learning the medical terminology that I had to learn, and eventually we got to the point to where she needed to learn how to eat without a feeding tube and things like that. And this whole time, this community is praying with us and being there for us and doing everything we can to be there for her. And finally, on November 5th, we received the news from the doctor that she could come home. And my daughter went from 1 pound, 4 ounces to like 18 pounds. And she's being held back there by Natalie at this moment. So if you want to know how marvelous our God is, I hope my story helps you. But I do have two things I want to leave you with here today. The first So this is the journey that we went through from June, and this one ends in February, but it shows you her growth throughout that time, and I was going to leave that here this week so you guys can look at it and kind of just remember our story and know how marvelous our God is. If somebody in leadership can get this to my mom afterwards, because it is a gift for her, and my dad, of course. I have one more thing for you, and I told you those 9 words, but I didn't tell you what they were. So these 9 words, I hope they help you as much as they helped me, or that they're at least somewhat part of your life as they were for mine. The cornerstone, Hillsong wrote, through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all.